Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achint. Lots and lots of conversations about India's future fighter programs, LCA, Mark 1, Mark 1A, Tejas Mark 2, and of course the AMCA. And sometimes conversation about the TBDF and a lot of things which are currently under work, pending, Kaveri engine, G404. There's just so much which is happening in the aviation game. We need to understand all that. We need to understand what the future warfare will call. There are new examples, drones, this, that, everything which is coming across. Questions, answers, questions like are fighters even needed? It's the same question that one time people asked, are tanks even needed? So it's something which we need to understand. And what's happening here? So I have with me Marshal Bedi, sir. Firstly, namaskar. Welcome to the show, sir. Always a pleasure.
Namaskar, Adi. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
sir.
much.
Sir, there's just so much, when we talk about what's happening as far as aviation is concerned, because it's such a dynamic business. It's moving so fast. From the yearn of making the most powerful engines today, a lot of people are saying, yeah, you know what, powerful, great. I also need to make smaller jet engines so that I can make smaller, faster drones and we can do this, that, and the other. The scope has just widened so much. Now there is complete confusion as to what is needed. So, what do you think?
Thank you, Adi. It's indeed a very complex and very important questions, and I mean they are important questions. I find myself privileged that you consider me fit to answer these questions. I will try and do my best within my capability. There is no doubt we are facing a very critical question, today, or Indian defense establishment facing a critical question that should we pursue the advanced medium combat aircraft or indigenous fifth generation stealth fighter? Or should we redirect these resources into unmanned and ballistic missile systems? Okay. I, for one, let me set it out in the beginning so that, people are not kept guessing. I would argue that while drones and missiles have undeniable tactical utility, AMCA remains not just desirable but essential for India's strategic future. Now we'll examine recent conflicts. Okay, we will compare costs. We'll analyze operational flexibility and demonstrate why stealth aircraft still, remains ultimate tool for achieving lasting strategic effects in contested airspace. Right now, let's start with hard data. Okay, since it's data, I pulled it out from open sources, which are widely available. Now, look at this. Say in 2025, we'll not go very far back. Okay, in 2025, Russia launched an average of about 3,500 drone strikes per month against Ukraine. Primarily Shahid type kamikaze drones, costing between, let's say, anywhere between $20,000 to $50,000. Now, when we add ballistics and cruise missiles to the mix, the number becomes staggering. Between January and September 24 alone, Ukraine reported nearly 5,500 such systems launched, an average of over 20 projectiles every single day. On September 8, 25, Russia executed the largest aerial assault of the war, 823 projectiles in a single day, 800, 10 drones and 13 missiles. 9 missiles and 60 drones penetrated Ukrainian air defenses, striking 33 locations across the country. Why I'm citing this? Because it is to draw the context. Then come to the 12-day Israel-Iran conflict in June 25. Okay, Iran launched approximately 574 ballistic missiles and 1,084 drones. Israel and US intercepted air defenses, intercepted 273 missiles with only 49 impacting populated areas. This is, what is documented. And what did they affect? They affected populated areas, bases, infrastructures, and so on and so forth. Now, Iran began the war with an estimated 2,500 to 3,000 ballistic missiles. Over 500 were expended during the conflict, and Israeli strike operations, on the other hand, with fixed-wing aircraft, destroyed more than 300 missile launchers, roughly 60% of Iran's launch capability, which later on affected it quite adversely. So here is a critical question. What did all these drones and missiles actually achieve in strategic terms? There is no denying the psychological impact. Drone warfare creates what researchers call, vicarious trauma exposure. What is vicarious trauma exposure? A constant state of alertness and anxiety for targeted populations. The constant drone and missile alerts have normalized a state of perpetual readiness. Okay, you don't know what will come from where, so you're perpetually ready. Now, these attacks disrupt civilian life, damage infrastructure, and force defenders to expend expensive interceptor missiles. A unique character of drones, which makes them attractive. Now, the cost exchange ratio is heavily skewed. Now, Patriot missile costs about $3 to $4 million, which you are using against, let's say, $50,000 Shahid drone. Even Iron Dome interceptor is about $50,000 each, which you are firing against, rockets, which are those very, very desi kind of rockets. All that is okay, but what about the lasting strategic effect? Now, despite launching tens of thousands of drones and missiles, Russia has not achieved any decisive battlefield advantage. Now, the conflict is settled into stalemate kind of thing with heavy casualties on both sides. So, Russia's frontal advances, if we see, are very, very limited, 10 odd kilometers here and there. And even in the Middle East, we see that after so many missiles, drones, etc., the things are just about going on. There is no end, or there is no end state which is being achieved. So drones and missiles excel at attrition, harassment, and area denial. They saturate defenses, create psychological pressure, and inflict incremental damage, but they do not and cannot achieve strategic effects. Okay, they don't seize air superiority. They don't conduct dynamic target reassignment. They don't adapt mid mission. And crucially, they cannot establish the kind of persistent, flexible presence that shapes the battlefield in real time. So, what aircraft can achieve that missiles cannot, and which is flexible and dynamic targeting. Okay. A fighter aircraft on a mission can loiter, assess, retarget, and make real time decisions based on evolving tactical situations. Ballistic missile, once launched, goes on to the target. Drones, to some extent, can be reassigned targets in real time also, but not with the kind of flexibility that the fighter aircraft can achieve. And above all, here is the fundamental truth of air warfare. Drones and missiles cannot establish air superiority. Now, people may argue that, it's not always possible to achieve air superiority. We call it favorable air situation. You do need some kind of air situation to your advantage for maybe limited time, in a limited time frame over limited area. But can these, articles achieve that air superiority with the absence of let's say fixed wing aircraft? We will come to the future, but how it should look like. Okay, now the fact is, why they cannot achieve air superiority? They cannot intercept enemy aircraft. Can a drone intercept an enemy aircraft? If tomorrow fixed wing aircraft come in your side, air defense missiles to an extent, yes, but ballistic missiles and drones, they will have their limitations. Okay, only fighter aircraft can do that. Now what happens is, these drones and missiles, they create a contested environment, but not a controlled one. You understand the difference? They can create a contested environment, which makes it difficult for people, but you cannot control the air environment with them. So now, when you consider apparent cost advantage, when people, the main argument which people put forward, now let's face it. On the surface, the math is very simple. This is what people propagate. You say, Shahid, the drone costs you about, let's say, on the outside, $50,000. Tactical ballistic missile, let's say $2 million. We are taking higher figures. On the contrary, take F-35 jet, which is there, fifth generation now, is about $80 million. And I believe AMCA, as the open source suggests, will be between 100 to 120 $1 million if it comes in the time frame that we are seeing. Now, if you just do the maths, probably on the procurement costs, you could buy 2,000 Shahid drones for the price of one AMCA. Okay, so people would argue that there is one AMCA and here is 2,000 Shahid drones, and you can see the effect they are creating, etc. Now that is compelling. But unless you factor in the full cost equation, okay, what happens is we start comparing from article to article. Every missile fired requires a launcher, launch platform, maintenance crew, fuel, logistics, and command and control infrastructure. Okay. Now, a Rafale fighter sortie from open source information, again, if you simply Google, approximately it says costs $30,000 on the outside. Figure says between 15 to 25 or whatever it is. Permission not including the aircraft procurement cost. But consider that single sortie can carry multiple precision guided munitions, loiter for hours, engage multiple targets, and return to bases for rearming. But ballistic missile, once fired, is gone. If it misses the target or target moves, if intelligence was wrong, there is no second chance. And you have to fire a barrage of another $2 million costing missile or, whole lot of $50,000 drones. So here is the paradox. Now we come to that, exchange ratio, what generally is argued. The defenders face a brutal cost exchange ratio. Like, Patriot interceptor, for example, is, $3 to $4 million. We said a third system is very, very costly. And even the Israeli Iron Dome system is very costly. And it is believed that US expended over 150 third interceptors and 80 SN3 interceptors during the June 25 Iran-Israel war, representing about 25% of the US stockpile, which will take about 1.5 years to replenish. So that sounds very, very attractive. So this attraction of drones is not so much, now this is my opinion and I will argue it why, that this attraction of drones is not so much because of their capability, but because of the absence of cheap and affordable drone system. Okay, let me draw a simple life analogy. We all know COVID came. Okay, COVID came and it created devastation all over. How many people it killed? And at one time it appeared that this is the most lethal killer. Did the danger lie in how potential the virus in itself, or more so in the absence of antivirus? Because the moment you developed affordable antivirus system or a vaccine to COVID, then it just vanished from the scene. And today, if you Google that what is the most killer disease, heart attack and cancer would still appear on top of the list and not COVID, because you have managed to get an affordable anti-system. So drones, etc., what we are talking of today, when the drones innovation, or I would say drones emergence came on the scene, people just carried on focusing on drones. Anti-drone systems were not given the priority they should have been given. They still are not. So you don't have a cheap anti-drone system tomorrow. Let's say when HPM comes in, your directed energy weapon comes in. Laser, they say you can fire a laser at the cost of a cup of coffee. Okay, one shot. It's as cheap. You just need a power source and you need technology. Let's say tomorrow I developed worthwhile HPMs. All your these drones, etc., will just go out of the window. And or you will have to keep on making them more expensive because you will need anti ECCM, ECCM kind of features, so that it can avoid direct energy weapons, it can have this capability, that capability, etc., etc. So then the advantage that to say that they're very cheap, very cheap will go, it will not be there because you have developed anti drone systems. So the future, because you're looking at, this is very, very important. Now let's come to AMCA cost perspective. Okay, where does AMCA fit in? Now India's AMCA program has been approved at 15,000 crore rupees. It's almost about 1.8 to $2 billion if you what exchange rate you take, and we are planning to induct about 200 aircraft from early 30s. There is a bit of slippage, but let's say it will appear on the horizon in 35 or something, at an estimated cost of about 100 million per aircraft, and that is about $20 billion procurement. Now compare that to the cost of maintaining a credible ballistic missile and drone deterrence. Now again from open source, India Agni 5 missile costs about $10 million per unit. Figure varies from 6 to 12 to 15 depending on what variant you're talking of, but let's take $10 million. Okay. If that is the cost of Agni 5, to match the strategic effect of 200 AMCA fighters capable of air superiority, deep strike, SEAD, and networked operations, you would need thousands of missiles. hundreds of launchers, and a logistic infrastructure that likely exceeds the AMCA program's entire cost. That is how the math works. It does not work with one aircraft to one drone. It works on the entire capability how you are developing. So the real metric isn't cost per platform, it's cost per strategic effect achieved. So a single AMCA, penetrating enemy airspace and destroying an AWACS or a long-range radar creates a gap that enables follow-on strikes, non-stealth aircraft missiles, and drones. That multiplier effect is impossible to achieve with missiles alone or the drones. Okay, then there is flexibility spectrum. Ballistic missiles, pre-programmed, single target, no abort, no retarget, no adaptation, launched and leave. Okay, kamikaze drones, somewhat similar capability with little bit of retargeting. Fighter aircraft, on the other hand, dynamic retargeting, mission, real-time intelligence, integration, ability to loiter, assess, decide, engage, and so on and so forth. Okay, so enemy can adopt to your drones and missiles, whereas it is difficult to adapt to a wave of fighter aircraft coming, which you don't know where are they going to come from, especially if they are stealth in nature. So what will be AMCA's advantage? AMCA is designed for kind of flexibility. It will feature your internal weapon base, super cruise capability. That is, it can go supersonic without afterburners. A very very required feature of stealth. AI-enabled sensors, network-centric warfare. So this just isn't a bomber; it's a multi-role platform. You know, and now when it comes to stealth, now there are certain misconceptions about stealth. Okay, what is stealth even applicable? You have low frequency radars, you have quantum sensors coming, you have space enablers, blah blah blah. So why are you wasting so much time into stealth? Now, this is a very, very, misconception. No, stealth, we have done it in our stealth episode. I'm very fond of it. That it does not make the aircraft totally invisible. But you see the equation that instead of being detected at 300 kilometers, if I was to get detected at 50 kilometers, what is the advantage that I have accrued to myself? You can do so much in that distance. You have standoff weapons you can launch and even get away before you can be seen. So it is not, if you give an example and detect a stealth aircraft in certain platform or at a certain distance and you say stealth is detectable, that is not how the game is played. The game in overall delayed detection and delayed kind of the architecture being provided to the enemy is the name of the game. And also one aspect that we forget is the active missiles. All your active missiles of future are going to be radar controlled, and they look through radar. So now if you have stealth feature which can defeat an air-to-air missile, then you have achieved a whole lot of stuff. So it's not only question of your detection, late detection, but also defeating an air-to-air missile. So AMCA's stealth requirement, we say, all aspect radar cross section, infrared signature suppression, internal weapons, advanced radar absorbent materials, etc., etc. And now coming to tactical part of it, this isn't optional, Adi. I feel, this even question is not optional. If your adversary is developing J-20 and Pakistan potentially acquiring J-35, stealth aircraft and equipping themselves, can we really afford to just rely on drones and ballistic missiles without, developing that kind of matching capability? Okay, now when it comes to manned versus unmanned, now this is again a dichotomy. The debate is often framed as manned versus drones. Now, this is a false choice. The future of air combat is manned unmanned teaming. We are not talking of either or. It is going to be both. So, fifth generation fighter acts as command nodes. Combining your loyal wingmans. So single AMCA pilot will control your multiple unmanned combat aerial vehicles, decision making, real-time sensors, etc. And all USA, China, they are working towards it. Combat your CCA, is being developed. But your future aircraft F-47 or future combat FCAS, when we talk about, they all are going to have this capability. So if we want to be credible player in the future, then should we have matching capability or should we not? So AMCA is designed for this. The DRDO has explicitly stated that AMCA will incorporate net-centric warfare system for seamless coordination with unmanned aerial systems in real-time combat operations. This means AMCA won't compete with drones; it will command them. Okay, let me draw another analogy. When we come to either or, all of us, who are aging, like our earlier platforms, okay, what do you need? You rely only on food or you rely on supplements? Someone introduces supplements to me. You say, this is vitamin supplement, this is mineral supplement, this is, iron supplement, blah, blah, blah. So when I look at the value of that capsule, I find that it can give me the amount of iron or calcium or magnesium or sodium much more than my helping of food gives. And if I do the simple maths, I say, I don't really need to eat food. Yeah, I can just live on capsules. It may cost me less. It's providing, you do the mathematics, will provide me the same iron or maybe more, same calcium, same magnesium, same this thing. But can I just do away with the food and live only on, capsules and tablets? So, or can I not eat them? Then if someone was to ask me that now you decide between food and supplements, what is more important? What would be your answer? Both are important. Yeah, both are important in the right quantity. I need to eat food as well because the kind of advantage it provides me in various atmosphere or various capability, vitamins, or they are not going to provide. Okay, but both are important. They must complement each other and not compete with each other. Okay, now we are saying China J-20 and Pakistan acquiring J-35. So even a limited number of stealth aircraft with Pakistani service, let's say, will complicate India's air defense planning, in my opinion. We always can't be lagging. Suddenly we can't discover that they have MRAMs in AIM 120, or they fired some PL 15 which was not in our equation, etc. You got to be ahead of the curve. You can't be reactive. Okay, and if you do not develop this, then unfortunately this is what will happen. And India's primary requirement is air superiority in our game of things. We keep saying, when it comes to China, we have done an episode. A lot of people would argue that our air force is matching, is capable. In certain areas we have technology, we have operational superiority, we have bases which are far more advantageous than Chinese position. What are we going to do with those bases? Launch ballistic missiles and drones from there? I mean, what advantage those bases will provide if you do not have worthwhile aircraft to launch from those bases? So AMCA will give you a lot of advantage. It will give you SEAD capability. It will give you deep strike capability, and moreover, it will be a very potential weapon in the nuclear triad. I would say that if tomorrow airborne, like air vector, of nuclear angle, which has to be seen, where would I like to put my this nuclear weapon, especially when we have no first use policy? Your second strike capability has to be very, very potent and strong. So in tomorrow's environment, would I like to put it on an aircraft which is easily detected and targeted, or would I like to be housed on a advanced future stealth aircraft? That is a choice we have to make. So AMCA is India's opportunity to develop indigenous, fifth generation fighter. It's development of whole ecosystem. It is not just development of just the aircraft. Now let's do the devil's advocate. That what happened if India cancels AMCA and invests only in missiles and drones? Just to play devil's advocate. That let's for a moment consider. So our Su-30, 4.5 generation Rafale, they are aging. And I said that the equation with you, anyone can make out that what will be the equation tomorrow if China features J-20s and Pakistan, features J-35 or even, more advanced aircraft, then where are we exactly placed? Now, what should India aim for? The requirement of AMCA, you can list them out. it must have stealth optimization, all aspect radars, blah blah blah, internal weapon base, super cruise, etc. I think most important thing is to see that what are the challenges, right? That where are we going to face the challenges, and the capability. When I say along with those, I would like to say that it must include a bit of or open architecture for sixth gen adaptation. Let's say you are going to take years to develop fifth generation, then if does not have open architecture for sixth generation, and what will be there for sixth generation? Some directed energy weapons, that it should be able to house quantum resistant application. And maybe may appear a little audacious, why not aim for both manned and unmanned versions of MCA? you know that you have manned versions, for your flexibility, etc. But let's say the battlefield becomes extremely contested, or I need a very potent loyal wingman, etc. Then I could probably have an unmanned version of MCA also. I mean, it's a far-fetched thing, very sixth generation kind of capability, but we must look at it. Now, coming to challenges, I will wrap up quickly. That engine is the biggest challenge. We are struggling with Kaveri engine. Okay, we have to work on that 414, and we all know the issues which come up with G stuff. 414 is a choice. Initial batches will be with that, but I think we continue collaboration with Safran, or other people. Lessons from Kaveri must be learned, and we can learn from foreign players, and slowly with development, etc., aim to achieve the engine capability. I don't know how will it come. So much has been said, we have talked about it so much. I think government needs to make it a national requirement. Yeah, some direction needs to come, that by year so and so, we must have this. I just heard someone mentioning when this BYD came in China. I believe the BYD boss was given just one direction: you have to beat Tesla. Finished. What do you need for this? You need this, all given, but this is the objective to be achieved. I think something like that we need to do. That you need to beat. You need to get Kaveri engine, or engine going. Then stealth we need to work on. Stealth isn't just shaping materials, coatings, manufacturing tolerances, systems, etc. So much needs to be done, and invest heavily in radar cross-section modeling. That is where we need to do software development. Tomorrow's aircraft are going to be somewhat, software defined in all capabilities, and timelines. We need to work on parallel assembly lines. Maybe modular development can help. Like, you don't just start working on one aircraft and do serial processing. Have modular development of engine somewhere, stealth somewhere, avionics somewhere, etc., etc., and then bring them together. Program management reforms probably have a different. We must have learned a lot from LCA, that what were the issues, where are the bureaucratic hold ups, how can we put a whole program or reform the program in a better way. Private sector, now you see, we know probably first time the HAL monopoly is being challenged. You have Tata, Adani's, L&T coming. But the fact is that their experience in producing aircraft is not much. I mean, no one has produced an aircraft as yet, right? And now they need to develop that capability. So there will be requirement to hold hands, to infuse technology, to encourage that they bring in the technology. Because if HAL has been taken out of the equation, probably it is with a purpose. And the way sometimes our ecosystem operates, I would fear, and this is my personal feeling, I hope it is not true, that it should not happen that on the face of it is some Tata, Adani or L&T, but on the background, it is the same workforce or the same environment which was working in HAL. I mean, you just given the title to someone and the capability enhancement has not taken place. Like we find in our normal day-to-day that the headings change and the bottom line doesn't change, right? So that really should not happen. Then budget sustainability, I think how will you sustain budget against other military requirement? I think export potential is one thing which needs to be kept in mind. Now I think we started figuring on the scene. I mean, recent visit in Indonesia, Prime Minister, BrahMos, interest is being shown in by various countries. So tomorrow, if you develop a capability, a lot of people, these countries, small countries, want a stealth aircraft but cannot afford F-35, right? So if tomorrow we make a variant which is probably competitive and there is export potential, then it can probably do well. So AMCA is just not a fighter, it is a technology incubator, in my opinion. You can progress in material science, propulsion, avionics, software engineering, manufacturing, etc., etc. Okay. And fifth generation fighters are a great power status. Ultimately, only US, Russia, and China are doing it. And tomorrow, if India joins that league, you have a solid statement, to make. So, if I just recap the whole argument, lest it's lost. So, first, we say drones and missiles have proven effective attrition, no doubt about it, but they have not achieved decisive strategic effects. They create disruption, not control. And then manned aircraft, especially fifth gen stealth fighter, achieve what missiles cannot. That is air superiority, dynamic targeting, adaptive operations, and decisive strike against high value targets. Okay. And then if it comes to equation, favors capability over mass when you measure cost per strategic effect. Stealth remains essential, and then future is not manned versus unmanned, it is manned unmanned teaming. AMCA will command drones, not compete with them. And for specifically India, AMCA is a strategic imperative, with China developing all those capabilities. So in the closing, I would like to say that in 2035, which is the targeted year, when AMCA enters the service, India will join an elite club, nations capable of designing, building, and operating fifth gen stealth aircraft. Now, that's not just a military capability, it's a statement of technological sovereignty, strategic autonomy, and great power status. The cost is high, challenges are real, but the alternative, dependence on foreign suppliers, vulnerability to peer adversaries, and strategic irrelevance in the air domain is something unacceptable and we can ill afford. So India must pursue MCOD not instead of drones and missiles, but as the platform that makes drones and missiles more effective. So in tomorrow's battleground, okay, when India arrives, it must arrive there with MCA. Okay, this is, I tried to sum up in general what you asked, because there are a lot of facets which are not talked about. The arguments are put forward in isolation and not as a whole. So this is a bit of work that I did, that comprehensive picture can be painted. We can now discuss whatever flexible things you have.
So for me, the main question is that there is the G404. Now, my question is that G404 we having a challenge, G414 we have a challenge. Now I understand one thing very very clearly, that you can't just go from a G to a Safran as a, you just can't keep dumping engines, because when you have an engine, it's not just the engine itself. It's not like a this thing. I mean, even a car engine, a guy who can fix a Suzuki engine cannot fix a Mahindra engine, right? There's a whole supply chain, there's a whole knowledge base, everything goes along with it. So fair enough. It's a tactically and a technically a wise decision to go with the similar line of engines as the engines progress as well. So you got the 404, you got the 414, you got the 414 Mark II for the initial phases of the AMCA, and then I'm not sure what the plan is after that, but till then I'm aware. So it's understandable. But now what do we do? The
See,
guy,
there is another, yeah, sorry.
so the,
Uh,
the 414, which is people misunderstand actually. So let me clarify again. 414 Mark 1 is for your Tejas Mark 2. There's no problem in that deal. Everything is going by whatever delayed plan it is. Fair enough. The problem is with the Mark 2, where they've now increased the price. Now we have a very unique challenge. We either maintain this supply chain or go with a completely new supply chain, needing a whole new knowledge base and everything like that. So we're stuck in a very interesting and a very weird sort of a position where there's no right answer apart from your own engine saying Kaveri 2. So the defense ministry yesterday, and let me just show you, there's a news finally. I mean, we used to talk about it, but now there is a formal news about it. There is, here we go. A Kaveri engine to be revived to power India's fighter jets. Report says DRDO has restarted the program. Fantastic. One second. It's not, oh, it's not coming on the stage for some reason. So now, what do we do, sir?
Yeah. See, what happens is when you talk of price rise, and I believe it's not little price rise. If I'm not wrong, it's three times the price. I believe thrice the price they have, done. I mean, if a news report is to be believed. So the problem is, Adi, it's not only what you brought out that knowledge about other engines, doing certain things about that. It is also design of the aircraft. You're looking at some report. Hmm.
Yes, it's the same thing that I was quoting. It wasn't
Yeah,
coming online. There was
yeah,
some
yeah,
issue
yeah.
with the system. It's the same thing. Now, formally, at least we started saying that, yeah, okay, fine, we are doing the AMCA.
No, but
We are doing the
there is an interesting point in this. You see, okay, let's finish that switch over. So it is not a question of just switching over engine. Your entire blueprint of the aircraft must have been designed around the geometry of that engine. You see, it's not just changing engine; it's a starting from scratch. Means fitting an engine in aircraft is not just sliding something in. It has to fit in the whole architecture of the aircraft, the airframe of the aircraft, the how avionics are fitted in. What is the kind of face or interface it does with other stuff in the aircraft. So now if you change, let's say, take a case, I mean, just as an example, you change from GE engine to Rolls Royce engine or Safran engine, say that okay, we don't do this, the whole scenario has to change. And let me give an example. I think we wanted to re-engine Jaguars, right? And Rolls Royce did not play ball. I was in London myself then, talking to those people, that why have you not pitched in, or why did you not bid in when because Jaguars has your engine, you should have been the first one. And ultimately I think we chose Pratt and Whitney, if I'm not wrong, or someone else. But the fact is the program could not take off. No, you could not change the engine just like that, because whole lot of stuff had to be done. And now similarly, in this particular thing, if you decide to change the engine around which the AMCA blueprint has been built, I think you will be pushed back. And that is the advantage. Probably they understand that, which comes the price rise that you're talking of. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, some newspaper report said that three times the price they have paid, right? They made it something like that, okay, or maybe some close to that. So what is the solution? You're rightly saying that we must have our own engine, but I'm little surprised to say that Kaveri engine program has been revived. Why it should not have been shelved at any stage? It was going on. It in before going to UK, we were supposed to be doing a tour, and then subsequently, when I was working on my hypersonic book about 2 years back, I visited GTRE and I saw Kaveri engine being developed, and there were challenges they brought out. What are the issues? Various issues. Okay, we'll not get into that, but not something which was insurmountable. All that it showed was that we probably do not have enough focus in that direction. The fact is that ultimately, if you have to develop own engine, are we parallelly talking of testing facilities? Adi, we still do not have testing facilities in the country. You still have to take the engine out to Moscow to test it. And every test point, typically, when I increase the thrust, let's say from 85 kilonewtons to 87 kilonewtons or 90 kilonewtons, that benchmark has to be tested. So now every time you have to go abroad, I believe some bureaucratic person would say in between. I have shared it in one of the seminars also, and there was a typical observation in one of the files. I mean, someone shared with me with kind of in confidence, that someone says, "Hey, you just went there 4 months before. Why do you need to go again? And why couldn't you do this thing then? What you wanting to do it now? I mean, is it even a question? How will the development take place like that? And I'm not even talking of an airborne tester as yet. You need IL-76, I mean, multi-engine kind of platform which houses your one airborne thing. So is that development going on parallelly? When we are talking of that, we must make our own engine. A great focus is required, and I think the only way is to probably make engine ahead of MCA, I would say, if somebody has to do this, because it will open up your entire game and you will be able to export this engine. Avi, you talked of small jet engines. Okay, I visited a factory here in Chandigarh, and somewhere I had seated in UK also. They make chota jet engines. With 15 kilonewtons, 20 kilonewtons, that kind of thrust, which are being used in probably cruise missiles or drones, jet powered drones now. So design, they come designed from somewhere. There are German machines, people are working, they are putting them together and producing mass scale and probably exporting, because we still don't have any jet powered drones in India, and we have just one cruise subsonic cruise missile program which DRDO is looking after. So if that capability exists, if just scale it up and make one worthwhile engine, and all countries around you probably would be a big market, yeah, for this kind of engines. So why don't we work on that? I mean, it should be a national objective. If I'm not overstating my wish list, I'm saying it needs to be like a program, the way nuclear program was. The priority it got, that we had to become nuclear weapon state for security reasons. So see the kind of focus that went into it, and finally we did it. We did it. The probably the hurdles in becoming a nuclear power state, I suppose, must have been much more than the hurdles which are against making an engine. If that could be achieved, then why can't this be achieved? You just need to put focus on this. We keep demanding technology, transfer technology, give me technology, acquire technology. If JLR, Jaguar, you don't demand technology, you just acquired a company and now the technology is yours. So you get engines, and there is a famous Instagram post going on. General Shukla, he, I believe, mentioned in some talk in somewhere that we are wanting to produce MCA aircraft. How will you produce MCA if there is an advertisement in the papers saying that MCA engineers wanted at a salary of 65,000 rupees per month? Whereas the sharp edge, the cutting edge technologies like quantum or AI, etc., pay their engineers in crores, yeah. So you'd have to develop Kaveri engine, you have to develop homegrown engine, you need to find talent across the world, reverse brain drain, call your own guys, pay them whatever they want, and say, target, this has to be done. And I think it will be done. But somehow we are going in a very long way about it.
Long is an understatement, sir.
Yes, probably.
Long is an absolute understatement, because the way we are going, I don't know what the plan is, or at least there is not renowned confidence in the plan. I'm sure there is a plan. Everybody's thinking about something or something, but we don't have the kind of confidence that we are looking for here. Okay, this is what will happen, this is what will happen, this is what will happen. There are certain things which are done, we don't know. Obviously, they kept under the wraps, but we have no idea as to what the reality is and where it is going to kind of land up. So it's a little, if I may, um, for the lack of a better word, confusing.
Yeah. See, I think there is a echo coming from your system. I think. Yeah. Uh, See, the thing is, things were the way they were. Okay. Now let's go back that certain things did not happen. People did not talk about it. They gave it time. It is evolution. But now, if government encourages for a spade to be called spade, and takes cognizance of it, then we say again that few sometimes better we have very high placed officers at the chief level bringing out the problems, that there is a problem, why there is no confidence in doing things, and I'm sure things would have spun up in a very positive manners. And certain pitfalls which existed or which people were taking for granted, and now I believe the technology development in DRDO, etc., is being monitored at the highest level in India. But the point is, monitoring is one thing, pushing it forward and doing positive things to get incremental effects is, I think, what is required. It is one thing for me not to tell a lie. Let's say you just I will only speak the truth. Okay, earlier I used to tell lies, but now you are monitoring me closely. I will speak the truth. But is that enough? If my speaking only truth is enough, is that your job? Your job is that, okay, you must speak the truth. That is a given. That's not an achievement. That is not a favor. That was supposed to happen all the time. Beyond that, how are you building your capability? How are you increasing your capability? That is the main issue, which is coming in picture. So in this whole development, engine remains the linchpin, and I think the day we crack it, it will be kind of eureka thing for the whole aviation industry. And I do see a hope, Adi, in this, because when these private players get in with whole lot of money, with export potential, with government's hand holding, they will have a different way to look at things, I guess. The less bureaucratic hassle, single man decision making, a lot of corpus, people coming together. Then it is a whole of nation approach. It's shareholders' money. If tomorrow any one of the three, let's say, start making it, or even a consortium is making it, doing different things. Even in this, I don't know how it's going to play out, but rather than making the whole aircraft by one entity in one go, probably it could be a consortium also, so that the labor is divided. You pick up one month's angle of it, yeah, what you are working at. And imagine if one of the powerhouses is only developing engine. One guy is looking at airframe, one guy is looking at the software development. Okay, these three are the main things. Okay, avionics part of it, or whatever it is. Okay, and pick up some other subsidiaries who are doing your chota work, and the whole nation gets involved. Because if I and you are the shareholders in these companies, then it is our money being spent on, it's taxpayers' money is also our money. But what I'm saying is, in a more direct fashion. If government loses money or gains money, it does not immediately affect you. But if this powerhouse, okay, where my shares are there, loses money or makes money, I'm directly affected. So you will find that your whole nation's energy, in some way, will get involved in it. And if tomorrow there are scientists, if I were to be, I mean, we are just talking now. If I were to be that brainy scientist who knows something about engine, and I know that this powerhouse industry ABC wants to develop engine, let me invest in that industry and help it make an engine, because I know my stock is going to shoot up 100 times, when that engine comes up available. So I personally become interested, not only with nationalism technologically, but economically, and the likes of me, that let's invest in this company and make those things work. So I think we are opening up to that. There are far greater intelligent brains who must be looking at it. We are just talking at a level which is visible, which I can understand, that how things may turn out better with this new change.
Indeed, sir. Thank you so much. I think that uh, it's not an answer, but it's a direction that you've given, and I think that's a good way to start. So
Yeah, yeah.
thank you for the effort, and of course, always a pleasure, listening to your thoughts.
No, no. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you, sir. And to the audience, share your thoughts, share your, what do you guys think? What is going to happen? Of course, there's going to be war in the comments, but that's not the reality. That's not what we need to do. What we need to do is look at constructive situations and come up with solutions. And that's something that I would implore everybody to do. So thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to support the channel. Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.